Mendelssohn Violin Concerto. It is said that only the most skilled of violin players can attempt this monstrosity of a piece. Today we will look at this idiot attempting to play it. You heard me right. He doesn't stand a chance.
Actually, he does a halfway decent job, but as a professional violin teacher, I have a few pointers. I first played the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto no less than 20 years ago. And at the time, well, I thought it was pretty hot stuff. But fast forward 20 years and now I've actually taught the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto no less than 2 times in the past couple of years, and funny thing, it's a lot more difficult than I remember. There's an interesting phenomenon that happens with violinists as they go back and look at pieces that they had learned when they were, let's be honest, far too young and far too inexperienced. They realize that the piece actually becomes a lot more difficult than they remember. Every time I teach a Mozart concerto, which once again I have done several times in the past couple of years, I'm amazed just by how much more difficult I find the music than when I was a teenager. And I'm pretty sure I'm a better violinist than when I was a teenager. So, as I'm thinking about how difficult Mendelssohn actually is and how ridiculous it was for my teacher at the time to let me learn it, I happened across this video. So here we have this idiot, this fool, this nincompoop trying to play the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto. Also, if you want to, you should go to his channel. I don't know if he's going to make any videos that are as interesting as this one, but he made a fun video. He did a great job doing kind of some of his own critiques, and I think you should go give it a watch, a like, and a subscribe. Also, Rub, if you're watching this video, I'd love to give you a free lesson. Okay, well, you can't call me because you're in England or wherever, but shoot me an email. All right, let's take a look.
What? And off he goes. Never mind, he messed up already.
All right, so first things. There are some people that can play like this all the time, even in high positions. They're going to hook their thumb around like this and somehow still make it work. Not most people, and we are going to get into some very positive things that Rubs does, but he will have a much easier time with all of the technique if he lowers his thumb position, or at the very least lowers his thumb position as he gets to the higher positions, right? This is just not a stable position. Even if you use a higher thumb position, all of the support needs to be on this bone. He has way too much support happening right here, which forces the fingers to curl over too much, right? Which makes them very, very unstable, which we'll see in some of his playing later. Okay, so a lot of these intonation and shifting issues could be very easily fixed if you just plan out your shifts, right? Plan out your left hand and plan out your shifts. If you get anything out of this video that will be useful for your own playing, I hope that's it, right? So what do I mean by this? And by the way, this is going to be a perfect, an absolute perfect example that I'm going to give you. Why? Because I haven't really played Mendelssohn for 20 years. So even though I've taught it a few times, I'm still pretty rusty. Okay, so what do we have here? We start in second position, and then we have the shift up to fourth position. Right? And it's all in E minor, and it's all very exposed, and if you don't play it in tune, everybody knows. So what do? First off, I make sure that my hand is in a nice hand frame. My fingers aren't scrunched together or spread out. They're about the width apart that I would need to play every note in this position. Okay, so I'm going to take this hand, this nice hand setup, and I'm going to very, very carefully transfer it to fourth position. So here's the hand. I'm going to use this B natural as an anchor part of my shift. So it's a good way to practice shift is to have an anchor note. All right, so that way I'm mapping out where my hand's going to be. And that is a great way to practice to ensure that you'll hit it most of the time. Of course, you can apply what I just showed you to every single part of this piece, but if I did an example for every part that needs it, well, we wouldn't get past the opening. So let's continue. Okay, let's talk about the bow arm. Now, one thing that he does that I really, really like is he does use a lot of bow. And for those of you that are familiar with my content, you know that I think bow speed is king. Even though he is being courageous and using a lot of his lower portion of the bow, he doesn't quite have the necessary control. And most of that actually has to do with his bow hold. And now I've talked about this in another video, which you should go watch, but when you're finished with this one. And that is that every finger has a particular function technically on the bow, right? We don't just put the fingers here because it looks nice, even though it does. We put the fingers on the bow this way because each finger has a role to fulfill. First off, the index finger is there to put pressure onto the bow. Then we have the pinky on the opposite side. And the purpose of the pinky is to take weight out of the bow. And then of course we have the middle finger and the thumb, which act as the fulcrum around which adding weight happens and taking away weight happens. And then we have the ring finger, which just acts as a stabilizer to what the rest of the fingers are doing. Not only that, but all of the fingers have to be able to move and work together. And if you don't have that, you're going to have a very difficult time being able to control the bow, especially doing something like this. Right? Right? I know there's more happening there than just the fingers, but if your fingers are stiff, then even if you're doing everything right in the bow arm, then you're not going to be able to control the weight and the speed of the bow and move it along the strings in such a way that doesn't create a scratch or a skitter, which is kind of what happens when he plays.
Let's see how he handles the octave part.
Let's see how I handle the octave part. See if I can even remember it. Could have been worse.
This is boring. Let's just go to the cool part, you know. For those of you who don't know, the cadenza is coming. I don't have much hope for this guy.
I know this video is mostly a joke on his part, but give yourself some credit. What I heard behind your talking was actually pretty good. Like he said, this is a very, very tricky part of the piece, but also he's kind of playing it the way most younger students, and I guess maybe even some older ones, tend to play it, which is to try to make it as flashy as possible. One thing you'll notice if you look at the dynamics of this section is they're actually quite varied. It goes from fortissimo to mezzo forte. And then doesn't say to a cello rondo. A lot of people like to, but it doesn't say to. Now we're starting forte, which again is a little less than fortissimo, which we started the last one. And I say a little warmer. To piano. Again, no accelerando. And all of that, all of those 16th notes, technically still piano. Now forte again. Forgive my intonation. To pianissimo.
this actually might be surprising, but I actually don't think the cadenza was too bad.
It really wasn't. I know I might sound a little bit negative sometimes, but his playing is actually very good. Rubs, you have a lot of talent. If you fix things like this at your age, you're going to do so incredibly well. So that's why I'm putting this stuff out there.
Well done, champ. Did it again. Let's continue.
Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, now he played that octave section way better than I did when I was younger and first learning this piece. Okay, but doesn't quite have the right spirit for this. So this is supposed to be an absolute go for broke moment. Even if you screw up some of the octaves, if you get the right feeling for it, most people in the audience won't even notice. So we start nice and slow. And the thing about this is, yes, I know it's kind of playing both octaves and broken octaves. In this case, I think the effect, the overall effect is what matters, not the integrity of the separation of the two notes of the octave. For me, that's just not quite as interesting. So, whatever you do, it has to be dramatic. That's really the main rule here. And he did a pretty good job, but he doesn't have quite the sense of momentum that some of these accelerandos need. Again, I'm going to blame most of the problems he had there keeping with the orchestra on the fact he is playing with the youth orchestra, but he did take a little bit too much time to jump into the double stops at the end. But overall, he has a really good sense of the music. I love how he went for broke at the end. So the main things here, Rub, that you need to work on really are just some basic technical things. What I would suggest first of all is rethinking your thumb position, making sure that your thumb is actually working for you and not just kind of this vestigial thing that, quite frankly, is often getting in your way. Making sure you learn to understand hand frame and how to plan out your shifts, map out the fingerboard, and then most importantly of all, learn to rework your bow hold and learn proper basic bowing technique, which I would start practicing open strings. And I made a video about this, which you can check out here. But all in all, Rubs, very, very good job. You just need a little bit more guidance in your technique. So once again, if you see this video, feel free to shoot me an email. I'd love to give you a lesson, and I'd love to show everyone else just what you've learned once we've had a few sessions together. Of course, for everyone else watching this, if you feel that these are things that you need work on, or if something I said in this video helped you, tell me in the comments, and if you want extra help, then shoot an email to admin@murphymusicacademy.org to set up a free trial lesson with one of our fantastic teachers. I've been Tobias Murphy for Murphy Music Academy, always here to help you in your progress because, as we all know, there is no pleasure in mediocrity. And for those of you who keep wondering about my slogan, do I think that Rums is mediocre? No, but there's always new levels to attain to, and that's what There Is No Pleasure in Mediocrity is about. That we're always trying to find new heights and new levels, and we're not being complacent about where we are. Happy practicing, and I'll see you next time.